We're continuing with our content managed system installation, and this time we're going to install a program called WordPress. What is WordPress? WordPress is the actual content management system. What does all that mean? Basically, when you go on a website, let's just say imdb.com, and you're looking at movies on this, and you want to get some more information about a particular movie, maybe Birds of Prey. Let's see if there's a quick movie I can click to. The Joker. As I create this, this is about to come out next week. And maybe I'll be using this video for the next 10 years, and you'll be wondering, how old is this thing? But anyway, as the Joker loads here, somebody doesn't go into IMDb and create a new HTML file for every single movie that's been created, or even, then every single actor that's ever been in a movie. That would be a lot of work for somebody to create an HTML page all the time, put in all their image tags, put in all these links. How do they do ads, for instance? How are they coming up? Is somebody actually coding everything that's going on here? Well, a lot of code has been automated, and what it does is it saves information into a database, and then the database, basically they put little pieces of the website into a database, and then the database has some code in it that assembles the websites. And puts all the different pieces together and then gives you your website. So you don't know, it's like this doesn't exist. This HTML file doesn't even exist anywhere. Just little pieces of it exist, and it creates it as you go. That's how most websites that you use these days are going to work. If you think about Amazon, every time Amazon has a new product to sell, they're not going to make a whole new website. Or web page for that product, or search engine now has to find that product. It's all done automatically with code. And so we're going to use a program called WordPress that does that for us. All we're going to have to do is create pieces of the websites, probably not even use any HTML, and it's going to create web pages for us that are much more powerful than what we can create. So we're going to go to wordpress.org. Notice that .org. You can go to wordpress.com, where you can create your own blog or your own website through their website. So you would always be your website would be www.wordpress.com/ awesome website. But here we're going to be able to download the WordPress software for free and use it ourselves. So here we are, WordPress. It's an open source software we can use to create beautiful websites, blogs, or apps. And I can just click this Get WordPress button, and we can download it. This works. It's different than Windows or Mac. It just works on inside MAMP, the thing that we installed previously, and so it doesn't matter once you've downloaded MAMP. You don't need to get a different version of WordPress. So I go ahead and download it. It's a lot smaller than the other one, and it brings it to me in a zip file. A zip file is just a way to take a whole bunch of things and put them into one file. So when I double click the zip file, it runs a little thing that unzips and then gives it to me. WordPress, there it is. And inside WordPress is a whole bunch of files, and it's oh, I don't know what all this means, but I do see an HTML file. PHP files are files, those are the files that create, this is the code that creates HTML files from the server. So PHP files are basically code files, and you can actually learn the code for PHP to be able to do this. But they are code that talk to databases and then assemble web pages. We call that on the fly. It creates the web pages as you ask for them. Okay, great. I have WordPress. Now, what do I do with it? So what we're going to do is, you might remember that we have MAMP installed. And so here's my MAMP. And I said anything that you want to put into onto your personal local web server has to go into htdocs. So we're going to just take WordPress and we're going to drag it right over there into htdocs. So now my htdocs has a folder in it called WordPress. And then I'm going to go ahead and open up MAMP, and maybe yours is already running or already open, but I'm going to go ahead and start my servers. And I should go ahead and in a minute see some green lights. And again, this comes up to say, haha, you have MAMP. And if I click on my website, now it's showing me this is what my website looks like. MAMP is a piece of my website, but this, like, my website doesn't have any home page. So instead of having a home page, it shows me that I have folders, one called test, which I just created for fun, and one called WordPress. So if I click on the WordPress one, you can see it's loading WordPress. And then because it's the first time that it's ever loaded WordPress, it's going to take me through a WordPress installation automatically in here. And so I want to hit continue, and then it says, welcome to WordPress. Before getting started, we need some information on databases. So WordPress is going to talk to a database. A database is basically just a table or group of tables of information that the computer can use to look up the information that we're going to use to create the website. So in order to get WordPress working, I now have to go ahead and work on the database. This is pretty much the last step, and then things are going to be working out for us. So it's not too bad. We have to go back to the MAMP. Man, I'm sorry. I think I'm starting to get sick, so I've got lots of coughing going on. We're going to go back to MAMP, and we're going to go into Tools, and we're going to choose the tool phpMyAdmin. So remember I talked about what PHP was, a kind of a coding language. We're going to click on that, and kind of a big scary page is going to come up. So a lot of things are going on in here. You don't have to understand much of it. It's telling you what version of the web server you're running, what version of PHP it's running, all sorts of things like this. All you have to do is click on the databases button. And it's going to tell you, here's some databases that exist. Well, I want to create my own database, so I'm going to click on this little create database button, or I guess it was already there and I just have to type in the name. You could call your database anything you want. If you call it something like WordPress or just something like database, the problem is if you ever want to put this database on an actual web server and use it in the real world, then you're going to want a unique name that only you have given it, so that it doesn't conflict with any other databases on those servers. So they recommend that you use your last name, and then you can say something like WordPress. The user will never see what you call this, so this is just your information. This little thing right here, it should say UTF-8 General. If it says something else, try to find UT8 General, CI, and then hit create. And it will say you've created a database. There's no tables in the database. Again, you don't need to understand that, so don't worry about that. What we need now, if we were to say, oh, what did we need in WordPress? We have a database name. The database name was, for me, Steen_WordPress. Then I have to give it a database username and password and hosts. So how do I find those things out? So now I'm going to go back to the main page. I can hit this little home button, and I'm going to go to user accounts. So this is how I create a user that can use my database. I'm going to add an account, and I get to make up a username. Again, this is for me. This is how I'm going to log into my WordPress, so I can create anything I want. So I'm going to recommend using your name, but you can do anything you want. And then you can make a password. Interestingly enough, when I create this password here, it's going to show it to you all. So I have to use a password that I never used for my banking or anything. Oh no, it doesn't show me here. It shows me later. That's right. So anyway, I'm just going to make one called WordPress 1. And I guess that's good enough that it's a little happy with it. If I was making this for the actual internet, I would not use something just called WordPress 1. I would probably hit the generate password and make a fancy one. But I'm just going to do that. You have to make sure you remember whatever you type here because you're about to use it. So don't type something and then immediately forget what it is you've done. Write it down if you need to, but you're going to have to remember your username, you have to remember your password, and you're going to have to remember the database you created. Alright, all this other stuff in here you can just leave blank, but you're looking for this Go button way down at the bottom of the screen. So look down at the bottom of the screen and you can see Go. That's going to create my username. If it works, I should see you have added a new user. You'll also see some code, which is what the computer created to make that user. Now, Steen here is looking at these things that he can do. And what Steen needs to be able to do is he needs to be able to use the database that I created. So I'm going to go back to databases. I'm going to create Steen WordPress. This might be, oh, I did it wrong. I was going to say, as I was doing that, I thought this is wrong. I'm going to go over to user accounts. I'm going to choose Steen as my user. I'm going to edit his privileges. And what I have to do is I have to find the local database privilege. He doesn't have any global privileges. He's got to have the privileges to use the Steen WordPress database. So you see where that is. I clicked on the database button here, and then I click on the database that I used, and then I hit go, and it says what kind of privileges, what kind of user is this, and I want to be able to do everything in my database, so I hit check all. I hit go one more time. And now I have a username that is allowed to use that database. My server is called localhost. So I have everything I now need to install WordPress. So I'm going to hit let's go. And if you're not sure what to type, don't worry, because now we can do it here. What did I name my database? I named it Steen WordPress. What did I give my username? I named it Steen. What did I make as my password? I used WordPress, and this is where you can see it out loud, so now you can get my password. And what is the host? Localhost, so that's all I need to care about. If you were to put this on an actual website somewhere in the real world, you'd have to get this information from your host company. And then what name do I want to give my database? This doesn't matter unless you're trying to make two different versions of WordPress on the same computer. But you can just leave that the same, and then you can hit submit. And it's like, okay, I'm ready to run the installation. Aha, now the fun part comes. What is the title of my web page? If you know what your website's going to be about, you can call it that. You can change this later. Don't worry, you can always change these settings later, so you can just call it my website for now. Okay, now this is the username, again, that I'm going to use to get into my WordPress. So I'm going to do WordPress 1. Hopefully, oh yes, I'm going to use that weak password, so there. And then it needs an email address. You probably won't need that, but I'm just going to put in my school email again. And do you want search engines to find this website? You never really want to discourage search engines from finding your website, but I'm just in a local one, so this button does not matter at all. So now I get to install. This will take a second while it gets everything ready. Wow. Okay, never mind. That was fast. All right. And we are about to finally get into our WordPress website. If I type in my information, and I have it. I've installed WordPress. Here's my website. This is what my website looks like if I click visit site. And it's pretty boring right now, but it's a website. Did I create any HTML? No, I didn't touch a thing, and yet I have a website that says hello world and has some information and goes on for quite some time, right? So this is what's just been created for me. I now have a WordPress website. I can get back to how to edit that website with this dashboard button. You can see maybe you already getting excited about this idea of I could customize my website, I can do all sorts of things with it, and we're going to go over that next. But right now, you have installed WordPress. Just being able to install WordPress is a impressive feature, which is why this is a badge all by itself. If you can get WordPress up and running, you really understand computers pretty well, and you can impress people by telling them I could install a WordPress for you if you need it. So, good luck. Good job. Good luck going forward.